Here's a question for you. Imagine you're a scientist whose area of expertise is colours, and you've spent all your time learning about colours in a small room with a computer. You've come to know everything there is to know physically about colours. Here's the catch. You've done all this research in a room with no colours whatsoever. It's a room that's completely black and white, and so is your computer screen. In fact, you've been living in this black and white room your entire life. Then, one day, you're able to leave the room for the first time in your life. You walk out and you're immediately confronted with colours. You see the redness of the roads, you see the blueness of the sky, you see the greenness of the grass, you see the yellowness of the sun. So here's the question. Did you learn anything new about colours? Remember, you spent all your life studying colours and know everything there is to know scientifically and physically about colours. So, by seeing them for the first time yourself, did you learn anything new? This is a question which deals with one of the hard problems of consciousness, qualia. Qualia are the experiential properties of a thing, the mental quality of experiencing something. So, for example, experiencing the redness of a rose, the warmth of the sun, the itchiness of an itch. All of these things are the mental quality of experiencing something. Well, what are qualia, you might ask? There's actually a number of theories out there trying to explain qualia, and today we're going to look at two of these theories. The first theory is called epiphenomenalism. It says that these qualia are non-physical in nature but are caused by physical processes in the brain. The second theory, which is called illusionism, or more specifically user illusionism, states that qualia are illusions of consciousness created by the brain to motivate the person into doing certain things at a certain time. Which one explains qualia better? To figure this out, we're going to need to look into these two theories in a little bit more detail. Firstly, we'll look at epiphenomenalism. Now, there's three main arguments supporting the idea that qualia are non-physical, the first of which is known as the knowledge argument. This argument can best be summarized as follows. One can have all the physical information about something and still not know all there is to know about that thing. Our earlier example of the colours expert in a black and white room is an example put forward by supporters of this argument. The second argument is known as the modal argument. This argument states that no amount of physical information about someone logically entails or shows that they are conscious. For example, imagine a parallel world exactly like ours physically, except that humans are not conscious. We are exactly like parallel world humans physically, but we are conscious and have qualia. Therefore, it is argued qualia are non-physical. The third argument is the what is it like to be argument. This was first introduced by Thomas Nagel, and the argument states that no matter how much information we get about a living thing, we will never know what it is really like to be that living thing. We can know everything about a bat, but we never know what it is like to be a bat with a bat brain, bat hearing, being able to fly, and so on and so forth. The difference between this argument and the knowledge argument is that the argument is about what it is like to be someone as a whole, instead of just knowing one particular experience of that someone. But what are qualia for epiphenomenalists, and what's their function? Epiphenomenalists believe that qualia are byproducts of certain brain processes. In terms of function, some epiphenomenalists believe that they don't really serve a function and that they don't have any causal relationship with the physical world. They're merely byproducts of other aspects of the brain which are evolutionary advantages, like higher cognitive skills and the like. Others believe that qualia are there to cause someone to do something in the physical world. For example, the painfulness of a pain causes a person to take their hand off a hot stove. However, one objection to epiphenomenalism is how a non-physical thing, such as qualia, could interact with this physical thing, such as the body. This is the big worry for epiphenomenalists, and one which hasn't really been dealt with fully by them. The other theory about qualia is that they're user illusions. That is, they don't really exist in the way that epiphenomenalists believe they do. Illusionists think that qualia are kind of like fictions taken from physical sense data, which are then transformed by certain lower level physical brain processes and then sent to higher brain processes in order to construct an introspective phenomenal picture of the world. In other words, they are a self-created illusion of the outside world that helps the self-conscious brain navigate through the world in a sensible way. They are a means of creating experience to go along with the raw sense data received by lower level physical brain processes. A common analogy used by illusionists is a computer. Take the physical brain processes as being the computer hardware and the mind and its phenomenal properties as being the software. The software and its properties aren't something that exists separately on their own. They're not things that are outside of the physical world. They are representations of actual physical processes occurring in the hardware. That is, the electrical signals, their subsequent representations as a series of ones and zeros, and then these ones and zeros being represented as what you actually see on the computer screen as the software. So which theory do you prefer? Well, in our opinion, we feel that the argument sways a little bit more in favour of epiphenomenalism. The biggest reason we say this is because illusionism doesn't really tackle the issue at hand. When it comes to the question of consciousness and qualia, they're not really explained by illusionists. They're just sort of explained away. Illusionists don't really talk about what it's like to have qualia or to have consciousness. They just try to explain the potential physical processes which give rise to them. Whereas epiphenomenalists actually try to explain what qualia and consciousness really are, even though their explanation of what they are can seem a little bit odd in the modern day, by saying that they are real and existing but not physical in nature. But as always is in philosophy, while it's great to hear other people's opinions on some of the big philosophical questions, it's always important to think of them yourself and to come to your own conclusions. So, what do you think?